What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Today, I'll be going over the start-sit questions that you guys submitted in the comment section of the last two videos. My goal was to do as many as possible, but there are well over 1,500 questions at this point, so I tried to get a really good sample because realistically, there are only so many guys you guys are deciding between, right? You know, it's not like anyone's asking if they should start Alvin Kamara. So there's a general range of players that you guys are looking at. Of course, I can't answer all of them, so if I don't talk about your player, then you can see my exact rankings at our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. And if you enjoy the video this week, then be sure to leave a like. It lets me know that you guys think we should do this one again. I want to start off by briefly talking about the thinking behind start-sit decisions because I think it'll be really helpful for you guys. Especially for the people whose questions I can't answer. So I was at a party the Friday night before week 2, and of course, people wanted to ask about their lineups. One conversation I had was especially interesting surrounding two Kansas City players. If you don't remember, Kansas City was playing Oakland in that game, and Tyreek Hill was out, like he is now, with his injury. Someone said they had their roster filled out, but they were down to their final two players for the flex spot. Damian Williams and Mecole Hardman. They said they liked Damian, but also the upside of Hardman. You know, you had Williams as a favored running back in a high-scoring game, and Hardman could really score in any play. So he was asking, well, who do I start? And I told him, if you look at any set of rankings or look at any projections, they're all going to say start Damian Williams. His medium outcome is higher, and they're projected to be winning for most of the game, which is really good for the running back. But then I said this, Kansas City is going to win this game, and they're probably going to score around 30 points. So realistically, both of these players, both playing on Kansas City, have a decent chance to score. The Raiders defensive coordinator likes to limit production to the top wide receiver, talking about Watkins there, so we should expect Hardman to see around 6 targets, with at least 2 of those coming deep down the field. So I asked him, what do you think happens on those 2 deep shots? If you think he connects with Mahomes, then start him. If you don't think he does, then start Williams. He played Hardman, they connected on 1 deep ball, and he ended up being the better play. Now, was it the right play? Honestly, we can't know. You know, we live in a world that's very uncertain and extremely random. And fantasy football especially is much more like poker than it is like chess. In chess, there are defined rules, defined plays, and so every single move you make is going to increase or decrease your chance of winning. And if you lose in chess, then it means you made a mistake somewhere. In poker, you can make the correct move and still lose the hand. You can beat a professional poker player for a few hands or even a night, but you're not going to beat a professional chess player. The same is true for fantasy. You can make what you think is the right move and what might be the right move, and it might not work out. Mahomes could have thrown that ball a foot further, or a defender could have gotten him a second earlier, or they could have scored on the play before that. Hardman could have dropped the ball, or they could have called an entirely different play. All of those things could have happened and would have changed the result of the decision. But the fact is, going into that game, Williams was expected to see around 15 touches, and Hardman was expected to see around 6 targets. And there was a distribution that could have been drawn out to determine all of the possible futures that could have unfolded. In some of those, Hardman has 150 and 3 touchdowns, but in other futures, he has 1 catch for 10 yards. There was absolutely a chance that Williams goes off and is the number 1 running back that week, or what actually happened, and then he had like 1 yard per carry. So if anyone were to tell you that there's a correct choice there, then they're lying. And it's not a cop-out to say, I don't know, because it's horrible analysis to pick a side and say that you're absolutely certain when everyone watching this video knows how random football is. Was Marvin Jones a better play than DeAndre Hopkins last week? Probably not, right? But Jones happened to catch a touchdown, and so he beat Hopkins by nearly 10 fantasy points. Each result should not dictate our process. We should be breaking down the matchup, determining the expected opportunity of all players, come up with a distribution of their potential outcomes, and make a decision that we feel best about. Because no matter what anyone tells you, there oftentimes is not a correct decision, just outcomes that are slightly more likely to happen. So, now that story time is over, I'll go over 75 different start-sit questions, and I'll tell you who I think is most likely to have a good game. And if you don't like my answer, well then do more research and make the play that you think is most likely to work out. Because ultimately, you're going to feel better about your decisions if you believe them to be the right ones. Question number 1. Start 2. James Conner, Phillip Lindsay, Derrick Henry. I'd go with Conner and Henry here. Conner's favored and at home, and the Bengals have a bottom, we'll say 5 to 7 run defense. Henry's just getting incredible volume, incredible opportunity when they get close to the goal line, and I really just do not like the game environment for Lindsay. Next, we have Sony Michel or David Montgomery as the running back 2. I'd go Montgomery. Sony has looked bad this year, and while it's not all his fault, it is partly his fault, but mostly this game, I just don't think sets up well for Sony Michel. They refuse to use him in the passing game, and it just sets up much more nicely for short passes to James White and Rex Burkhead, so I really don't think Michel is going to get that many touches this week. Next, we have Kirk, Samuel, Hollywood Brown, or Flash Gordon at the flex. Flash has a really difficult matchup, so not him. Samuel has an okay matchup. It's not really great, it's not really bad, it's just kind of average. And he did seem to be the second read for Allen last week. Ultimately, I'd say the decision comes down to Kirk or Hollywood. Kirk should see a few more targets on average, but Hollywood has seen far more air yards, and so his targets come with a lot more upside, so I'd prefer to start him. Devonta Freeman, Nelson Aguilar, or Christian Kirk in standard scoring. I think if Ito's out, you definitely have to go Freeman here. Aguilar actually plays in a few hours, so you have to make this decision before the video even comes out. But I think, honestly, even if Ito is cleared, in standard scoring, I think you've got to go Freeman in this one. It's really close, but he's at home, he's favored, and you do typically lean running back when it's close in standard scoring. Next, we have Phillip Lindsay, Demarcus Robinson, and David Montgomery. Both Lindsay and Montgomery are favored running backs at home, but neither team is projected to score a whole lot. The Bears-Vikings game is going to be super slow-paced, really ugly, so I think I'm going to shy away from players in that one if it's close, so I would go with Lindsay. Carlos Hyde, Marvin Jones, or Adrian Peterson. I would start Marvin Jones. He's in a great game environment, and neither Hyde nor Adrian Peterson are going to be involved in the receiving game, so they have very, very low floors. Next, Danny Dimes or Matt Ryan. I actually spent about a half an hour on just this question alone because they were right next to each other in the rankings, and I thought a lot of people were going to have to make decisions on Danny Dimes this week. Ultimately, they're both set up really nicely, but I give a slight edge to Jones just because his team total is slightly higher and he adds more rushing yardage, which is going to make his medium outcome just a hair higher. It's barely. I mean, if you do out their median projections, Jones is probably like half a point better, but he's getting the edge, and I think their floors are about the same, ceilings are about the same, so I'm going to go with Daniel Jones. Hollywood Brown or Chris Godwin, this one's really tough as well. Godwin has a very difficult matchup, and I don't expect Winston to play all that well this week, so I do think I'd start Marquise Brown ahead of Chris Godwin this week. The targets are there for Brown, they are, and his targets are extremely valuable, so he's going to be great in fantasy. Will he hit every time? No, but I think I would play him over Godwin this week. Mixon or Kirk in full PPR, I'd go Mixon. Even as a road dog, I am not convinced that the Steelers win this game, and Mixon has nice receiving upside. Even if the Bengals lose, he can still be productive. David Montgomery or Calvin Ridley, I'd go Calvin Ridley here. I really like the Falcons passing attack this week. Kirk or Josh Jacobs in full PPR, gotta go Kirk there. Until we see proof that the Raiders are willing to use Jacobs as a receiver, I'm going to take the reception floor of Kirk over him. Mecole Hardman, DJ Moore, or Tyrell Williams in standard scoring. Williams has a tough matchup, so I'm not going to him. I think I'd start Moore over Hardman, but like I said at the beginning, if you think Hardman hits on his deep shot, it's going to be a similar thing this week. Does he hit? Then I guess play him. If you really think that happens, he's going to need that to score more points than Moore, and that's why I'd probably start Moore if it's my team But if you think he hits and you need the upside, you can go Hardman. Next, we have Flash, Curtis Samuel, or Hollywood Brown. I'd go Hollywood for the reasons discussed prior to this one. Start 2, full PPR. We've got Christian Kirk, Terry McLaurin, Mecole Hardman, and DJ Moore. I'd go McLaurin here. He's had an incredible year so far, and his target counts are very stable. Plus, this is by far the easiest matchup he's had yet on the season. For the second player, I'd go with Kirk again for the safety in PPR. DJ Chark, Frank Gore, Flash, Kirk, or Dorsett in PPR. I think I'd start Kirk here again. PPR, really nice having his targets. Both Patriots receivers have really tough matchups, and you can't really play Gore against New England either. So that drops most of this discussion away. Kirk, I think, is a better option than Chark. I think they're both great, but like I said, it's PPR, and I prefer the reception floor of Kirk. Mike Evans or Terry McLaurin. Listen, I love McLaurin, even with me thinking that Winston doesn't play all that well. You have to play Mike Evans ahead of Terry McLaurin this week. Watson or Danny Dimes in 1 point per 10 passing yards, so a little bit more heavily weighted towards passing yardage. Although I would not be shocked or anything if Daniel Jones were to outscore Watson, you got to play Watson. He's the better play. Hardman, Godwin, or Hollywood Brown in full PPR. Again, Hollywood is my guy this week, so I'm going with him. OJ Howard or Hawkinson. Not in love with both. Don't really like the matchup on either, but I would go Howard if you had to make that choice. Stafford or Daniel Jones. I am playing Daniel Jones over Stafford. OJ Howard or Doyle. You got to go Howard there. I mean, Doyle's just not involved enough in the receiving game. Start 2. Full PPR as well. John Brown, Marquise Brown, Josh Jacobs. So although I do not love Jacobs in games where they're projected to be losing, I think they're about a touchdown underdogs right now. Don't love him in full PPR as well. John Brown's going to get Gilmore on Sunday, so he's very unlikely to produce very much. So I would definitely start Hollywood, and then I guess I'd throw Jacobs in there, although I don't love it. Full PPR plus 1.5 PPR to tight ends. We've got Sterling Shepard, Austin Hooper, or Curtis Samuel. I would start Sterling Shepard. Really like that game for fantasy. I know that it's nice getting the 1.5 for Austin Hooper, and he's had a few nice games, but the ADOT is so low, the air yards are minimal, that he just needs to put up a spiked week to pay off. And I really, really, really like that game for Sterling Shepard. Brandon Cooks, Chris Godwin, or Mike Evans. I would start Brandon Cooks. He has the better matchup than Godwin and a more secure workload than Williams. Although Williams does play Miami and he will come up later as a start. I just think Brandon Cooks, he is due for a breakout game soon, and it could very well come this week. Darren Waller or Travis Kelce. Love the matchup for Waller this week, but Kelce is the number 1 tight end every single week. Derrick Henry, Flash Gordon, or Juju. I'd go Derrick Henry here. Flash and Juju both have very difficult matchups this week. Waller or Demarcus Robinson. Like I said prior to this, I love Waller's matchup this week against the tight end funnel in the Colts defense, so I would actually play him over wide receiver, not something you see a ton. You don't typically start a tight end in the flex. Chris Thompson or Demarcus Robinson is next. If you look at projections, I bet you Chris Thompson is projected higher, but it's only by a little bit, and the upside I just feel is much higher for Demarcus Robinson in the Chiefs offense, so I would go with him instead of Chris Thompson. Pick 2, full PPR, Mecole Hardman, Marquise Brown, and David Montgomery. Definitely Marquise Brown, and then I would give Montgomery the slight edge over Hardman, but it's a very slight edge, and it could honestly go either way. I don't really have a strong take either direction. If you want the upside of Hardman, go for it. I do think David Montgomery outscores him more often than not. Flash or DJ Moore in full PPR. This one's close as well. I think I'd go Flash, but it's really just a coin flip. Again, like I said, the outside wide receivers on New England don't have a lot of promise this week, but I think it's a slightly better play than DJ Moore. Calvin Ridley or Hollywood Brown. Looks like I'm all in on Hollywood this week because I'm going to go with him again. Gallman or McLaurin in standard. Definitely going McLaurin there. I do not believe Wayne Gallman is all that good, and so he'd need a touchdown. And with how well McLaurin is projected this week, got to go with him. DJ Chark or Demarcus Robinson in standard. In standard scoring, you're definitely looking for the touchdowns, and so Robinson has a much better chance of scoring this week than Chark does, so I'd start him. Kirk or Flash in full PPR. Kirk, again, is typically the answer when you're asking with the high reception floor. Curtis Samuel or Mecole Hardman in full PPR. I would play Samuel. Allen Robinson or Samuel in half PPR. I'd play Robinson there. He is a buy low candidate through 3 weeks with the amount of air yards he's getting and how he has not, I believe, scored a touchdown yet through 3 weeks. So I think he's ready to explode sometime soon. Pick one to sit. Godwin, Shepard, Crowder, or Sutton. Well, Crowder's on bye, so definitely don't play him. But if you want another one, then I would sit Sutton and play Godwin and Shepard. Start 3. Full PPR. Godwin, Shepard, Kirk, Woods, and Gallman. So I would play Godwin, Woods, and Shepard there. Love Kirk in the reception floor, but I definitely think the upside of the other 3 are a little bit more, and then we're not even considering Gallman in this question. Full PPR, Josh Jacobs, Larry Fitzgerald, or Kirk. I have Kirk, I believe, ranked 1 spot ahead of Fitzgerald, seeing a little bit more targets, a little bit more air yards, so I would go with him. Allen Robinson or Flash. Don't like the matchup for Flash, so we're going with Allen Robinson there. Kerryon Johnson, Tyler Lockett, and Joe Mixon. This one's really tough, but I would go with Lockett. A default is typically, are they playing the Dolphins? Well, here's another one. Are they playing Arizona? Lockett gets Arizona. He's the start there. Josh Allen or Minshew in the Superflex spot. I'm assuming that's a second Superflex spot. I'd go Josh Allen, even playing the Patriots, but I don't expect either of them to have a good week. Full PPR, Darren Waller, Allen Robinson, Sanders. I'm going to assume this means Miles Sanders, who plays tonight, and this won't help you. Guess it could mean Emmanuel Sanders as well, or Lindsay. No matter which Sanders that is, I would go with Waller. Again, not that often that you say start a tight end in the flex, but a great matchup this week, heavily involved. I'd go with Darren Waller. Lockett, Hardman, or Carson. I'd go with Lockett in the matchup here. Yes, he has technically the same matchup, and that he's playing Arizona, but the Cardinals typically try and force teams to pass more than run, and so Lockett would be the preferred option against them. Lindsay or Brandon Cooks in full PPR. Cooks, think he's going to blow up soon. Lindsay or Shepard in half PPR. I'd go Shepard. Again, love that game environment. And Daniel Jones is an obvious upgrade over Eli. Lamar Jackson or Goff. Most definitely going with Lamar Jackson there. DJ Chark, Kenny Golladay, Hollywood Brown, or David Montgomery in full PPR. I'd go Golladay. The Lions should need to keep pace with Kansas City. And despite what happened last week, Golladay is still the Lions' go-to wide receiver. Mike Evans or Will Fuller. I'd go Mike Evans, but I can tell you Will Fuller is another guy like Brandon Cooks. Will Fuller is going to explode. I'm telling you this right now. Maybe not this week, maybe not next week, but very, very soon, Will Fuller is going off. Mike Williams or Cortland Sutton. Again, Mike Williams there because of the matchup. Curtis Samuel or Chris Godwin. I'd go Godwin with the disclaimer that I don't love Godwin this week. I love Godwin in general, just not this week. Darren Waller or Mark Andrews. Go with Waller there. DJ Chark or Dorsett in full PPR. I'd go Chark because of the difficult matchup for Dorsett, but honestly, it's like a 1 point, maybe even half a point difference between the two of them. So if you're like, no, I really wanted to play Dorsett, well then play Dorsett. Just know that the Bills are a very, very difficult matchup for outside wide receivers. Mike Williams or Marvin Jones in standard. I guess I should have been saying assuming he practices, because I know yesterday Mike Williams did not practice. I don't think it's anything, so I think he resumes practicing all week. But assuming with all of these Mike Williams takes that he practices Thursday or Friday, Williams. He's playing Miami. That's the tiebreaker. Full PPR, McLaurin or Boyd. Love them both this week, but I would go with Boyd because of how bad the Steelers are at game planning against slot wide receivers. But again, love them both. Sony Michel or Gallman. Do not like either of them. But assuming that the Giants only sign someone off practice squad, I'd start Gallman. Edelman or Mecole Hardman in half PPR. Edelman, I know I said avoid Bills wide receivers. That's Bills outside wide receivers. We're fine in the slot. Edelman should be peppered with targets if he's playing. Obviously, check Roto World. Obviously, check on Sunday to see if he's playing. But if he's out there, Edelman over Hardman. If he's not out there, well, don't start someone who's out. Austin Hooper or Will Dissly in full PPR. Dissly has the best matchup of any tight end this week, so I would start him. Christian Kirk, DJ Chark or David Montgomery in PPR. I'd go with Christian Kirk there. Calvin Ridley or Kirk, I guess I'm all in on both Hollywood Brown and Christian Kirk because I'm going to go Kirk with this one. Darren Waller, Mark Andrews, Mecole Hardman for a tight end and then a flex spot. I would go with Waller for sure at tight end, and then assuming that the reports are fine later in the week and into Sunday morning about Mark Andrews, I will go with Mark Andrews over Hardman. But if we get the same reports like last week, many reports came out that said Mark Andrews was not 100%, wasn't going to be playing well in the game. You shouldn't have been starting Mark Andrews last week. If those reports do not come out this week, roll with him again. Lamar Jackson or Wilson. Lamar is my number 2 quarterback this week behind Mahomes, so him. Shepard or Devontae Freeman in full PPR. Shepard, but it's close if Ito is out. Still lean Shepard even if Ito is out, and definitely lean Shepard if Ito is in. Philip Lindsay or Calvin Ridley. I'd go with Ridley because I do not like the matchup playing Jacksonville for Lindsay. Plus, he is still splitting time with Freeman. Sit 1, Godwin, Watkins, or McLaurin in half PPR. You're definitely starting Watkins there. And honestly, I think I'd start McLaurin this week over Chris Godwin. The matchup is that good for McLaurin. Todd Gurley or Chris Carson in half PPR. If Penny is out, then Carson. If Penny plays and is expected to see his normal workload, then Gurley. I think Penny will be out, and so the answer would be Chris Carson. Tyler Boyd, Curtis Samuel, Christian Kirk, or Philip Dorsett in half PPR. I'd start Boyd for the matchup. Like I said, they do not game plan in Pittsburgh. Full PPR, John Brown, John Ross, Curtis Samuel, or Frank Gore. I'd go with Samuel. Gore and Brown have brutal matchups against the Patriots, and then Samuel has more stable targets than John Ross. Mecole Hardman or Tyrell Williams. I would start Hardman there. I really do not like the matchup for Tyrell Williams this week. Hollywood Brown or Hardman. I'd go Hollywood. Terry McLaurin, John Ross, or Dorsett. Definitely go with McLaurin there. Mike Williams or Godwin in PPR. This one's probably closer than you think, but I would go Godwin by a hair. Mike Williams or Hardman. I'd go with Mike Williams on that one. Sammy Watkins or Calvin Ridley. I would go Watkins, although I will say I think Ridley does have a bounce back week. And then start 2, Godwin, McLaurin, and Kupp. And then the comment said, am I crazy for benching Godwin? You are not crazy at all. Definitely starting Kupp. And then honestly, I would start McLaurin over Chris Godwin this week. So those are 75 different start-sit questions for week 4. You can answer any question you have by just looking at my rankings at our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. But that, my friends, is the end of this video. I hope you all did enjoy. If you did, how about hitting that like button? If you're new here, how about subscribing to the channel? But thanks for watching.